Welcome, friends, to a mobile edition of Crime Time with DutyRon. We have a verdict. The verdict is in the Lori Vallow Daybell trial. With me today is Melanie Little. She is an attorney. She's a mom of five. She's here. She texted me. She said, "Ron, are we going live? This is going to be the verdict, read live." And I said, "I'm at work." And then I was like, "Wait, maybe I can make this happen." Melanie's like, "Give me 10 minutes. I'm ready to go." Thank you so much, Melanie, for joining. What's your thoughts on this? 6 hours and 45 minutes, give or take a couple of minutes. This was quick. Your thoughts on it?
It was quick, but it wasn't that quick. You know, it's not as quick as in Murdoch. I think they were only out for maybe 45 minutes. So I think that the jury put a lot of thought into this. I think maybe the reason that it took longer than some other cases we've seen lately is because maybe they were hung up on the Tammy Daybell charges. So we're going to see, we're going to watch the verdict live, and we're going to find out, along with all of you, exactly what the jury decided.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, for me, this has been a long time coming. This case goes back many years, so we got 2 years or so. There's been a lot leading up to this, and there's so many people who are looking for justice. You look at Larry and Kay Woodcock, you look at Charles Vallow's family, his brother Jerry is there in the courtroom, his sister-in-law Melanie, they're out of state, and people are traveling, and justice for JJ and Tylee, and Chad's wife, just a horror scene here. And I hope that we get a guilty verdict straight across the board on these charges. But before this thing, we only got a couple of minutes. What's your thoughts on guilty verdicts across the board? I mean, I know that it's a guessing game, but a lot of people were talking about how they were caught up with the charges for Tammy Daybell. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think with all the forensic evidence and all the text messages and the Google searches that were all done contemporaneously with not only Tammy's death, but before and after her death, I think that this is a slam dunk. I think that these jurors paid meticulous attention to the case. They were allowed to take notes, and some of the jurors had 5 or 6 notebooks full of notes by the end of this case. So they've been sitting there for a long time. And I am confident she's going to be found guilty on all charges. I have to say that.
Hey, and before I put myself back on, Melanie, I'm going to leave you full screen. What was your thoughts on her defense attorney's closing arguments? I listened to about 10 minutes of it, and I don't know how much you got to listen to it, but he sounded like a baffling idiot. And I hate to even use that term, but he was just rambling on, and it almost seemed like he was giving a prosecution a little bit of a pat on the back, because he was making fun of his client for her ridiculous religious beliefs and so forth. Were you able to catch any of that?
I did. I found him to be very monotone. I understand that he broke down crying twice during the closing argument, talking about what a great mother she is. And I find that to be incredibly disingenuous, because anybody that's watched even a smidgen of the testimony in this case knows that she was a horrific mother. I mean, this woman was dancing on the beach in Hawaii when her kids were missing. He made fun of her religion. He made fun of, he really kind of threw Chad under the bus. And from what I hear from people who are sitting in the courtroom, she really took offense to that. Lori did. She was not happy with some of the things that he said in his closing.
And that brings me to my next point is, will she have any type of recourse if she says that she wasn't happy with her representation? Could that be a possibility here, Melanie?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that was something that a lot of people were sending me questions and asking about that. No. But, again, I don't know about, everything that goes on with, attorney-client privilege. And, I don't think that she would have any type of ground to stand on if she was just upset with the way he conducted himself in closing arguments. It would be another thing if she felt she was not represented properly, right? That's
the grounds would be ineffective assistance of counsel, and I don't see that in this case. I mean, he did everything that he could have done. He did what he thought he had to do in his closing argument to zealously represent his client. And if he thought that was a way to get the jury to see reasonable doubt, then I think we have to defer to his opinion and his judgment.
Yeah. And, Judge Boyce throughout this whole trial has been very, very on time, very meticulous. He's run his courtroom real well. He was under a lot of scrutiny because in the beginning, as you remember, he was it was questionable whether they were going to allow Larry Woodcock to be in the courtroom. And there was that little fight in the beginning, and there were some strong statements that were being made by Larry that he wasn't going to call him a judge anymore. I think we're way beyond that. He did handle himself, and he handled his courtroom really well during the course of this whole trial, and everything was on time. There was no, as you know, we could wait for judges to come onto the bench. Sometimes they take really a long time to come into the courtroom. I was just impressed with the times, and here we are. We're a little bit delayed here, and this could be a matter of a whole bunch of different things. It could be the transportation of Lori, getting her to court, because
Right.
don't forget she wasn't there. It could be waiting for different people from the family, perhaps the immediate family, to get there. Who knows? But we are beyond that time by about 5 or 10 minutes at this point.
They did say that they were going to give everybody an hour's notice to get there, and sometimes that's not always possible to get there in an hour. So you could be right.
Right.
Some of the attorneys may be, stuck in traffic. It's
Right.
hard to say. But how about a shout out to the sketch artist in this case? I mean, she has done. Her name is Lisa Cheney, and she has been in the courtroom every day sketching the trial for us, and she's been our eyes because we can't see what's going on in the courtroom. So, it's definitely an occupation that's not seen very often anymore because we see a lot of cameras in courtrooms. So shout out to Lisa Cheney.
Yeah, Lisa did a great job, and I was looking at all of her sketches on a regular basis every day, and some were really interesting to see the facial expressions and what she brought out with Lori Vallow, I like to refer to it. It sounds corny, but I've been calling her Shallow Vallow throughout the course of this whole thing, not just the trial, but I've been doing this since the get-go, since we started covering this. Let's say hello to some of the folks in the chat, because I see Miss Donna Marie. I'm looking at my computer screen. Joey Brooklyn, our head moderator. He's our security director. Joey Brooklyn, thank you for being here. Karen, legal-minded friends from the UK, thank you for joining. And I want to say a special thank you to you, Melanie, because you, with the drop of a hat here, you just sent me a message. You're like, hey, let's go. I told the folks when I went live just maybe about a half hour ago that I wasn't going to be able to bring it, and I was actually making the suggestions. Go watch Nate Eaton, East Idaho News. And I know there is a lot of people who are live right now. I'm talking about bona fide news outlets, YouTubers, and certain people. So, listen, we wanted to bring this. We wanted to bring it from a lawyer's perspective, and I think we'll listen, Melanie, and you can. I'll let you be the judge of this. We'll listen, and then once they're done reading the verdicts, we'll give our analysis of what they come up with. We're keeping our fingers crossed. We're hoping and praying for guilty across the board, but you have to brace yourself because you never know. Your thoughts on that, Mel?
You never know. I mean, they may have been hung up on the Tammy Daybell count, but I just find that there was so much evidence of conspiracy here, and so much evidence of conspiracy when you go through all of the electronics and all of the forensics. I mean, her hair was found on the duct tape of one of her children. I don't know. I really am feeling like justice is going to be served here.
I hope and
am.
pray.
There's other charges too. There's not just those 2 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of conspiracy. There's also grand theft for collecting government benefits on behalf of her children after they were gone. And I thought the prosecution made that real clear in their closing argument. They tied everything together. For her, it was all about the money.
I think the courtroom feed is live right now. Josh, if you can go to it, just come on and get that up and on there. Oh, there we go. And let's take a listen in. This is live from the Ada County Courthouse. Right, so until we get some audio going on, it looks like this is a Zoom feed here,
A little
so we're hearing a
glitchy,
lot of,
yeah. It's not
yeah,
us,
we're hearing
it's
a lot
them.
of noise. Let me see what court TV's got. I think they're going to get the same feed, right, Mel? I mean, they're
I've
not
got
going
Law
to
and
get
Crime behind me, and it looks like they've got the same feed.
right. Yeah, so we're going to have to just grin and bear this. I just looked at my TV behind me. Same thing up on the screen here. Let's go. At first, I thought maybe some of the noise was coming out from your end, but it is from the courtroom. So it looks like a packed house, as from what I could see. It says the view of the prosecutor, view of the judge, view of the defense. Looks like we got a. Yeah,
I heard they were lining up at 4 a.m. to get seats in the courtroom because there were no tickets given out or wristbands or anything like that. It was first come, first serve, and people were waiting since 4 a.m.
Wow.
And we're waiting for the judge to take the bench. He's not on the bench yet.
Hey, Josh, if you can mute the audio to it until the judge comes up on the bench, and then we see the the announcement, that'll be great. This way we don't have to hear the coughing of everybody and so forth. So this is a live feed in the courtroom. And Melanie, as you can see, the judge is not on the bench yet. I see defense. Is that Lori? Yeah, I see Lori there. She's got her hair all curled up. Yeah, that's her. It's not a great feed. I'll say that. This is not a high quality Zoom feed, but then again, what do you get from court Zooms? This is probably as good as it gets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not up on the technology.
Yeah, no. I was hoping that there was going to be a live TV feed, like here in New York, when there is a live feed, it's usually at one of the major networks. They only usually allow one to come in, and then that network does something called, I think it's like
Here comes the judge.
Shared feed. Okay, here comes the judge.
Yeah.
All right, let's be quiet. We're going to go full screen, Mel. We'll put it full screen.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right, good afternoon, everyone. We are going on the record. Court reporter, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, thank you. This is case CR 22-21-1624, State of Idaho versus Lori Vallow. The matter before the court today is for a verdict in the jury trial that's been conducted over the last several weeks in this case. The court will note on the record, prosecution is here represented by Mr. Wood, Ms. Blake, and Ms. Smith. The defense, Mr. Archibald, Mr. Thomas are present, as well as the defendant who is present. The court's been advised that the jury has reached a verdict at this time. Is the state ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well. Let's have the jurors brought in, please.
There we go.
While the jurors are being brought in, I'd like to indicate that this matter is being live streamed on the court's YouTube channel. In addition, the court's existing conduct order is in effect, and everyone needs to comply with that conduct order. This verdict has several counts. The court is going to require that all in attendance abstain from any sort of loud outbursts or sounds that could in any way affect the proceedings in this matter, as the counts are read in the verdict. And I expect to maintain order and decorum, as has been the case throughout this trial, with those in attendance. So please keep that in mind once we get to this stage of these proceedings. So with that in mind, if the jurors are ready, they can be seated.
All right, please. Jury's all present, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bailiff. Please be seated. All right, the court will note that we had alternate jurors that were excused upon deliberations. So now the remaining 12 jurors who have deliberated are here and appear to all be properly seated. Will counsel stipulate that the jury is all present and properly seated in the state?
Yes, Your Honor.
Will the defense will stipulate?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, at this time, the court will inquire then from the jury, has the jury reached a verdict?
Yeah.
Very well. If you have the verdict form, I'd ask the bailiff bring that over here and we'll have it brought to the clerk to be read.
Talk about nerve-wracking.
Man, I feel like I'm sweating like I'm the defendant.
It's the moment of truth.
The foreman sounds confident.
All right,
so-
the court has reviewed the verdict form, find that it's been properly completed, signed and dated. So at this time, I'll direct the clerk to please read the verdict into the record. The defendant would please rise.
In the District Court of the 7th Judicial District of the State of Idaho, in and for the County of Fremont, State of Idaho plaintiff versus Lori Vallow, aka Lori Daybell, defendant, case number CR 22211624. Verdict. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn to try the above entitled action for our verdict, unanimously answer the questions submitted to us as follows. Question number 1. In regards to count 1 of the amended indictment, is Lori Vallow not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan and grand theft by deception? Answer, guilty. Question number 2. In regards to count 2 of the amended indictment, is Lori Vallow not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan? Answer, guilty. Question number 3. In regards to count 3 of the amended indictment, is Lori Vallow not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow and grand theft by deception? Answer, guilty. Question number 4. In regards to count 4, the amended indictment, is Lori Vallow not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow? Answer, guilty. Question number 5. In regards to count 5 of the amended indictment, is Lori Vallow not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell? Answer, guilty. Question number 6. In regards to count 7 of the amended indictment, is Lori Vallow not guilty or guilty of grand theft? Answer, guilty. Dated this 12th day of May, 2023, signed by the presiding officer.
All right, please be seated. Madam Clerk, thank you for reading the verdict into the record. At this time, let me just inquire of the jury, is this in fact your true and correct verdict?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Let me ask now from counsel, does the state wish to have the jury polled?
We do not, Your Honor.
Does the defense wish to have the jury polled?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, the jury will be polled at this time. Madam Clerk, if you would please indicate only by juror numbers of each of the jurors if this is their true and correct verdict individually.
Juror number 4, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 5, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 6, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 8, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 9, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 10, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 11, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 12, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 13, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 14, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 15, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 16, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. The court does find it's a unanimous verdict in this case, so I will direct the clerk to record the verdict into the record of this case.
Awesome news.
I'll now have a closing jury instruction for our jurors and also those alternate jurors that are in attendance today. You have now completed your duties as jurors in this case and are discharged with the sincere thanks of this court. The question may arise as to whether you may discuss this case with the attorneys or with anyone else. For your guidance, the court instructs you that whether you talk to the attorneys or to anyone else is entirely your own decision. It is proper for you if you want to, but you are not required to do so, and you may choose not to discuss the case with anyone at all. If you choose to talk to someone about the case, you may tell them as much or little as you like about your deliberations or the facts that influenced your decision. If you decide to discuss the case with anyone, you should be careful to respect the privacy and feelings of your fellow jurors. You should limit your comments to your own perceptions and feelings. If anyone persists in discussing the case over your objections or becomes critical of your service either before or after any discussion has begun, please report that to me. At this time, then, the court offers its sincere thanks to the jurors. I appreciate your patience and attentiveness throughout this lengthy trial. I also thank you again for upholding your important civic duty as jurors in this case. I'd also like to thank the attorneys who tried this case for your professionalism throughout the proceedings and in the pretrial motions that came before trial. At this time, then, the court will discuss briefly sentencing in this case. In Idaho, pursuant to Title 19, Chapter 25, a report is required to be prepared before sentencing called a pre-sentence investigation report. In a typical case, that report takes at least 2 months to prepare. In a case such as this, it will likely take longer. The court will inquire as to a pre-sentence investigator for the time frame required to prepare the report in this case. Upon getting an estimation, then the court will reach out to counsel for determining a date for sentencing. I'll just advise everyone that will likely be, I'm thinking, at least 3 months probably before that sentencing can be scheduled to have the report completed. The court will also advise at this time then, upon conclusion of the proceedings, the defendant will be remanded back to custody of the Ada County Sheriff at this time to be transferred to the Fremont County Sheriff for further proceedings in Fremont County for sentencing. The court will also instruct the clerk to collect any of the jurors' notes pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 24.1A. At this time, then, the court will ask that the jurors and any alternates in attendance be excused from the courtroom. And I am going to direct that all in attendance here remain seated until such time as the jurors have been completely exited from the courtroom. And in addition, I'll let the jurors know there is additional information you'll be receiving through the court administration offices on your way out as you leave today. So again, thank you for your service. Court will be adjourned. And Mr. Bailiff, if you could have all rise for your jury.
All rise, please.
All right, thank you, counsel. Thank you, everyone, for your decorum this afternoon. Court is adjourned.
Judge, when would you like me to open the doors for?
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Melanie, guilty across the board. Did you think that we were going to get this? I know that you gave us a little bit of your, yeah.
Well, that was my prediction, and I'm glad I was right. Thank God. I can't even believe that she remained standing while they were reading the verdict. Like, I almost wanted to collapse in my own, and I'm sitting and she's standing and she's listening to herself be found guilty of killing her children. And she's able to just stand upright. I'm
Yeah.
shocked.
I saw a couple of comments that were redundant while the jury was being the poll of the
Mhm.
jury. You know, you don't hear that all the time, but could you just give us a little explanation of why the defense does that?
Sure, anybody can do it. Either side can do it. The judge will always ask, would you like me to poll the jury? And what that means is each juror has to stand up individually and say, yes, this is my true verdict. It's a way of ensuring that every person agreed to the verdict. And in this case, they did, put them on the spot. Maybe if you want to say the state waived it because they just believed it. And, the defense wanted every single person to get up and confirm. By my count, I counted 7 men and 5 women on the jury. So that was the composition on the jury just based on my notes. And I know that the 6 who were excused before deliberations were still in the courtroom. And I'm sure they wanted to be in the courtroom because they spent a lot of time listening to this case as well. And they wanted to see the verdict.
Yeah. Again, we were very pleased to hear that they came to this verdict before the weekend came. And some were saying, it was sort of like a Mother's Day gift to Chad Daybell's wife, Tammy, and all who are left behind, the surviving victims, the families of these victims.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just so happy that it didn't drag out into Monday. There was a potential and a possibility. I wanted to mention this and talk with you about this for our listening audience. If this jury was not on the same page, would they have rushed this thing to get it over with just to have the weekend and have Mother's Day to themselves? I don't think so.
No.
Melanie, I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
No, this was way too involved of a case. They were invested in this case. Like I said, 5 and 6 notebooks full of notes. There's no way that somebody flipped last minute just to go home for the weekend. I don't believe it.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. But I did see a lot of actual comments and questions and some kind of chatter in some of the online groups. And there's a lot of chatter, trust me,
No.
Melanie, you know about that.
Yeah.
A lot of people speculate, oh, they're just going to rush this to get it through. No. You're talking about, 2 children, and this was an important case. Like you said, they were invested in this thing. So Princess Michelle said in the chat, what is Lori looking at here? She's looking at 2 consecutive life sentences plus additional time for the third guilty verdict. So she's not going to see the light of day. She's never going to get out. She's going to live the rest of her natural born life behind bars in prison.
She'll appeal. They always do. So don't worry about that. I mean, there'll be an appeal filed probably next week or the week after. On what grounds, we don't know, because you don't, when you file a notice of appeal, you don't even have to state your grounds, but not in every case. But I don't think she'll ever see the light of day. I think you're right.
And whether it doesn't really matter about the years that they throw at her, like someone put in the chat, sweet one put 200 years. She's going to spend the rest of her natural born life behind bars in a cage. I like to refer to it as a cage, in a cage, and she could rot and have all the time to think about what she did and think about the evil that she did and that what she inflicted upon her own flesh and blood. I have no sympathy. I have no, I know that she will get people that will write to her, just like the Chris Watts, these heinous killers that are behind bars. They get fans. There's a
The
fan
Menendez
club.
brothers. Yeah.
We could go on and on.
Yeah.
We can go on and on.
Murdoch is getting letters.
Yeah, exactly. There was actually a show that I watched. I don't know what network it was on, but they were reading some of these letters that were going to Murdoch in jail, in prison. It is just pathetic. Let's look at the chat. Patricia Smith says, I agree. Sweet one, says Charles Manson. People are mentioning a lot of different things. I've got a couple of screens open, so I'm monitoring all the things that are going on. When could be a time frame for us to hear victim impact statements? Is this going to be in Fremont County when they do the sentencing? What could we expect from? We know we'll hear from Kay and Larry Woodcock. We may hear from her son. At what time does that happen? And I'm asking you these questions for our audience.
Yeah, well, it would be at the hearing, at the sentencing hearing, but they said that there's, I think he said there's 2 months, they have 2 months to, for their pre-sentence investigation. So they will, after that is done, they'll set a hearing date.
Which
And-
we heard it will be back in Fremont County.
Correct. That's what
Yeah.
I heard too. Yeah. Somebody asked in the chat, can you please explain why 6 jurors were excused? And absolutely. So when the jury is picked, there's 12 that will actually sit on the jury and 6 who will be alternates in the event that some of the jurors have to drop out due to illness, family emergencies, any number of reasons a juror could drop out. So at the end of the case, they drew from a hat or something 12 jurors that were going to hear the actual case, and the other 6 were excused. But they keep them there just in case, because you never know what can happen. That's
Right,
not always the case. A lot of times, like in California, you know that you're an alternate while you're hearing the case. In this case, they did not know until the end,
Right.
was my understanding.
Yeah, and that's what I heard
When
too.
it was time to deliberate, yeah.
Right. So yeah, a lot of people would get caught up on that. Thank you for explaining it.
Mhm.
Any other takeaways? I saw Lori with her arms folded.
Yeah,
as
did you
said,
see that? She
said-
was, you know,
and
she like,
she had her head kind of tilted slightly to, as we're looking at the screen, to her right, to our right, her left. She was tilting her head and had her arms folded the entire time. I couldn't see emotion. I actually took my monitor, I have a 27-inch, and I actually, kind of like pinched it in, but it got really blurry. It got pixelated. So I couldn't see the look on her face. But, I pushed it out, and then I looked in the audience and I saw Larry Woodcock. I saw a couple of people who looked familiar. But it wasn't unfortunately good enough where I could actually see and identify who was who in the audience. But I wanted to see her facial expressions, but her body language
I did too.
spoke volumes, right?
She looked like a petulant child who just was like, this isn't fair. I mean, that's the impression that I got just from looking at her body language and the way at the very end, she just crossed her arms like,
Right.
nobody understands me. This isn't fair.
Right. Marie in the chat is saying no emotion. Again, it was hard for me to see any
Right.
kind of emotion. Like I was looking to see if she was crying, if she was frowning, and that was difficult for me to actually get off of that feed. I'll go and look and try to enhance it again later. But here again, she had no regard for her own children. When the time came when they were saying how close, right, that conversation back and forth, how close are they?
Right.
She
What is
didn't
their
say-
light number?
Right, the
Are
light
they at
number,
0
right.
yet? Yeah.
Right. It wasn't like, hey, you know what? I'm having second thoughts. These are my kids.
Yeah.
Can we spare them? There was none of it. She was just like gung ho with it. So I didn't expect any emotion out of her here. I don't think that we will see or hear any kind of emotion out of her. Remember the blasé response she gave Nate Eaton when he went to Hawaii and was walking alongside of her? Your children are missing, Lori. What do you have to say? There's people out looking for them. He puts the mic over to him. She goes, that's good. Well, guess
She
what?
is a complete and total narcissist. She has 0 emotion. Everything is all about her. And that's all she cared about was herself. I believe she was the puppet master, and she had not only her brother on a string, but a part of Chad as well. And she really pulled the strings, and she tried so hard to keep her hands out of the getting dirty part, but she was right back there all the time, telling people
Right.
what to do, or sort of like suggesting, giving them these evil little suggestions
Right.
on what she wanted, and they did it.
Yeah.
And the death penalty was not on the table for her, but it will be for Chad.
Yeah, I can't wait for that to start. Team Brittany's in the chat. I saw Cecina, my good old Irish friend from Italy. She's Italian. I break her chops about it. Good to see you, Cecina. Thank you for joining. I want to go to the chat and make a quick poll. Let's just do a quick poll because I always like to review these afterwards. For those of you who felt that there was the potential for a not guilty for the murder of Tammy Daybell, put a 1 in the chat. If you felt that we were going to get the guilties across the board on everything like I felt and Melanie felt, put a 2 in the chat. I just want to see how many of you guys felt that there was really, it was just a little iffy. I monitor as much as I can the online chatter, and there were a lot of people who felt that the state was going to have a hard time getting this guilty verdict for the death of Tammy Daybell, Chad Daybell's wife. But they got it. So let's see what the chat's saying. I see a lot of number twos. I see a couple of number ones. It looks like the twos outweighing the number ones here, Melanie. I always like to see and hear what our audience is thinking and what their what their thought process is. And none of us know. As you said, the jury is the fact finders. They are the ones who have the last say. And that's what we heard here today, live from Ada County Courthouse, is we heard the jury, 12 people, put in their verdict and guilty across the board, all charges.
Loud and clear.
It's a great day. Somebody just sent in a super chat. It was too small, but I'm going to highlight it. Southwest 4x4 Explorers, can Chad take a plea to avoid the death penalty? Why 3 months for sentencing? Thanks, Ron and Melanie. What's your thoughts on that, Mel?
Can he take a plea to avoid the death penalty? Yeah, he can.
Yeah, but it would
I
have
don't know
to be
that he
offered.
will. It would
It
have
would have
to
to
be
be
agreed
offered.
to. Yeah, it would have to be offered
offered.
and agreed to by the prosecution. And that may happen just because his attorney was in the courtroom every single day for this trial. So Chad's attorney was there. He was taking notes. He was doing research to see exactly what these witnesses are going to say and exactly how much evidence they have. And, so that he could give his client an opinion about what he should do, whether he should risk a trial or try to take a plea. So we'll know more about that later. The second question was why 3 months for sentencing? I think he said that under the Idaho guidelines, they have 2 months to render a report. So after the report is rendered, then both sides would have a chance to look at it and object to it, and then they would need to set the hearing after that. But she's going back into custody. It's not like they're letting her go. She's in custody, so we'll see.
Melanie, I wanted to also get some of your thoughts as an attorney. I know you're an experienced trial attorney and you know about this stuff. How do you feel the representation was for Vallow? Her attorney at times seemed to be a little off his rocker, questioning the forensic anthropologist or forensic pathologist from the local area there, and talking about, I watched this in a movie and that's not how it goes when it comes to the process of when they were speaking, and I hate to bring it up, but they were speaking about how JJ was killed with the bag over his head and so forth. I mean, it just seemed like a very I've never seen a defense attorney engage in court like that. And it was just, I don't know, I just wanted to see what you thought about that, because I know all of our audience, they were watching closely, and there was a lot of comments about how he behaved, and it just seemed very odd and off-putting.
But was there ever any video released during the course of the trial? Or we're talking about listening to audio?
I'm listening to the audio, not the video, just the audio and people speaking about it, talking about it. There was no audio. Again, that's my fault. But
right.
Yeah,
so there was no video. Looking at
speak.
sketches, just listening to him speak. I mean, look, people think that when they sit on jury duty, they're going to go into court and they're going to see a trial like they see on TV. That the lawyers are going to be like actors, and this is going to be very entertaining and very exciting. And it's just not like that. There are a lot of lawyers out there that don't have the greatest, people skills, let's say.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a trial lawyer, you should, and you should be. I think every trial lawyer is a frustrated actor, but a lot of them aren't. And so it's not like you see on TV. So I think a lot of people have the wrong impression of what it's going to be like. I think he did the best with what he had. And I think maybe some of the things that he said, that he was trying to play into that version of the TV lawyer that he thinks people want to see. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I just don't know where his the thought process was on that one, because everything is done, like you said, for a reason, and it just seemed to me that he was going off the rails. D Banks sent in the chat.
What he had, he didn't have a lot.
He didn't have a lot. That's true. He didn't have a lot. Listen, today is a great day. Mark it down in your books. May 12th, 2023. Lori Vallow Daybell, found guilty of all charges. I believe there were 6 of them. And she is now going to spend the rest of her natural born life in jail. Not many of our bad girls in prison and in jail like child killers.
Yeah, I was going to say, tell us,
you
how
know,
much do they hate child killers in prison? It is not going to be, it's going to be rough for her in there.
It's going to be a rough go. Listen, we all thought also too, Chris Watts annihilated his family. I thought by now we would hear stories about him getting beat. We don't know, and he might be having a real rough go. It doesn't necessarily have to mean someone getting their life taken from them in prison or jail. You know, she's still got to spend a little time in prison and then move to jail and then move to prison. But when these folks are in their permanent housing, that's when things can go south. And it might not happen in the first year or the first 5 years. Sometimes, as you see with Jeffrey Dahmer, he was killed in jail, you know, and actually killed in prison. But he was someone who wasn't liked. He was not a hero. Now, if you have someone that goes in there, bad guys like the people who hurt law enforcement, they're heroes in behind the wall. But these folks who do these heinous crimes, taking a child's life, not well taken to. So I hope that she doesn't have one good day, and we all hope and pray that Lori Vallow has a miserable rest of her rotten natural life. So.
Can you explain to our viewers the difference between prison and jail? Because that's an interesting, I think a lot of people might not know that.
Right. So when you're in jail, that's where Lori is now. She's awaiting trial or light sentences of 18 months or less. Here in the Northeast, jail is Rikers Island, right? But when someone gets sentenced, like she's now going to be sentenced in the future, she is going to go to prison, which is a state facility. So when folks here in the Northeast, in New York in particular, they're waiting to get their sentence, or if they get a small local sentence of under 2 years, they'll spend it in jail at the local jails. But when it's long-term housing, the state takes you over. You become property of the state, as they call it. And the DOC in the state of Idaho will gladly take Vallow into their custody. And when you go up into those state prisons, there's a lot of really nasty people up there. There's a lot of mean women that she's going to come into contact with that are not going to want to be friends with her. They're not looking to curl their hair and put on makeup and all the things that we've seen her do in her shallow time here. So Lori Vallow Daybell is going to have a real rough go, but that's what it is. So jail it's temporary. She's going to remain in jail for the next 2-3 months until this process goes and she gets sentenced, and then she'll go up to a state prison. So that's how it works, folks.
Cheeto Love says, what is she going to do if her cellmate thinks she's a zombie? It's a great comment. I think you win for comments today. I haven't scrolled through them all yet, but
that's an awesome comment. Yeah,
I like to call her Hollow Vallow because she has a hole where her heart should be.
Yeah, she has
Hollow
no heart.
Vallow.
She's that spot there is been vacant for a while. When we saw her and Chad sunning on the beach and with the ukulele and all of those pictures that we've seen, we also saw the body cam footage recently where she was in a bikini laying on the lounge chair, and Chad was showing off his man boobs. And
while her kids were missing.
Yeah, while the kids were missing, and she didn't have a care in the world. The officer handed the papers to her, and she read them, and then she looked. She didn't even take her glasses off. She looked at him. Is there anything you need from me? What? Do you have any questions for me? Nope. Unbelievable.
She was searching for wedding dresses on the day of Tammy Daybell's funeral. She was searching up malachite wedding bands before Tammy had even passed away. She was a master manipulator and a master orchestrator, and thank God she is where she belongs.
Yeah, agreed. Hey, listen, folks, if you're not yet subscribed to Crime Time with DutyRon, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. Follow me on all things social media, one word, DutyRon, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, you name it, we share our videos on those platforms. No, I'm not swinging from a pole on TikTok and Snapchat. We share the videos. Also, follow my fill-in co-host until Ed Wallace comes back, Melanie Little. She's been doing a great job, not only here, but on Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. So thank you, Melanie, for everything that you do. I'm going to link Melanie's Instagram in the description here, as I do with all the videos. But just got to give me a little bit of chance because I'm at my place of business, and we did this quickly.
Working.
One of the super chats went by quickly, and it was from Lou Lamaraca. He's a friend of the Police Off the Cuff. He says she is considered an inmate in prison by others. The convicts will eat her alive. She will get, I can't see the rest.
Whatever she deserves. I see it.
Thank you.
She'll get whatever
Thank you,
she deserves.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Very good, folks. Again, I want to just say thank you for tuning in today. This has been a unscheduled, quick live stream that we just put together because I know that a lot of other people did this, and a lot of the news networks, but this was something that was interesting. Leave us comments down below. If you have any further questions for Melanie or myself, put it down below in the comment section. We look at those comments. D Banks, I see you here, and I thank you for being here. Shari, R, and all the moderators and replay viewers. And hey, before we go, Melanie, I want to say thank you to the super thanks folks who watch the videos and decide to leave a little bit of super thanks. It's like a super chat after the fact. That's another way to support this great community. And I want to thank those super thanks folks, because sometimes they, the super thanks, I don't get to see them for a day or two. So I want to thank you guys in advance for those super thanks. Those are always, always appreciated. Melanie, you got anything final on this?
No, I'm just so happy that we were able to watch the live verdict with the viewers. So, when we found out there was going to be a verdict, I texted you right away and said, let's go live with this. Because everybody, we wanted to watch it together with all of you. So thank you for tuning in. Please hit the like button, comment, and share the video. It really helps YouTube push out the video. And thank you all for your support. Happy Mother's Day to everybody too.
Yeah, and thank you for reminding me of that, because I had a note over here on the right of me and I missed it. Happy Mother's Day in advance. This Sunday is Mother's Day. To those of you who are moms and are doing, a great, great job and doing what you have to do, thank you. And for those of you who aren't moms, who could be mom to filling in for somebody, or mom to a dog, a cat, an animal, or anything, thank you to the ladies. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys, without our moms, we would be nowhere. So I give thanks and praise to all of the great moms out there. Happy Mother's Day this Sunday. I hope you have a great, relaxing, restful day around friends and family. And if you're alone, send me a message on DutyRon.com, and you're feeling down on Mother's Day, send me a message. I'll be sure to get back to you as soon as I can and wish you well. So thank you on behalf of Melanie Little and Crime Time with DutyRon. We're going to end it with the cop team. I think I can find it here. This is Kara, which is Ed Wallace's new puppy, Oscar, who's my 15-year-old dachshund, who's really tough, and my 35-year-old African gray, Popeye. All right, guys, we'll see you later. Thank you guys for joining. Peace and love.
Thanks for joining us.
All right, guys.